And we are recording. So,
Hello.
hello. I think we missed a week or 2 weeks. We had a role-playing night on our Tuesday night, and then I think we missed a week, just didn't do it, whatever. And again, this is not a super strict thing. This is just to kind of keep us to a record of how things progressed, and so we can look back at how our plans changed or evolved as things went. So, I showed you some layout of the board. And if I get a chance, I'll put up pictures. I've said that at every single one. I've not managed to do any yet, but I'll put some up. And it made me realize, I think you agreed, that I've got enough models that it fills the board that I'm doing. So I should concentrate on some of the board bits.
Yeah.
So I've got my little box borders that I need to finish. So I'm going to try and finish some of those. But I'm also going to start chopping some of these ends off and just turn them into like burnt out, ruined bits, or maybe some that are mutating or going a bit rogue, just to be like, well, that'll shortcut that. I also am quite proud of this. This is my first attempt at freehand writing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you can see.
Oh, so numerals on the dial. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so this is the sundial. So I'd already done this base, and then it was really annoying because originally I wanted it to be a statue, and now it's like a statue to a shark under the water, as you can see. But yeah, this like basically just adding this tiny little bit of styrene, and then doing a couple of lines and a couple of numbers. Like that's it. That's the centerpiece of the garden is now done. On my big hobby tracker, because I haven't been doing much scenery, but I've been getting it in the Conquest magazine. I've actually dropped below the 90% that I was keeping to. So this will help jump it up. And I've got a few other little things, not for the Armies on Parade, but like these little wooden ladders that I'd like base coated and then not finished. So there's a few little things that I can just like, I don't have to paint another plague marine. I can knock some of these out. So that's the plan, is to try and concentrate on them. And also, did that just break another one? Yeah. I primed up some Nurglings.
Oh, nice.
But instead of doing, and this was on sort of your advice or your thing, so my Plague Marines are black, and then going to grey, and then to white. Classic Xanathar. So for these guys, I did white from underneath, and then just a light grey from on top.
Oh, so you're trying to give them ethereal.
Yeah. So, and this is what I want to do with all my demony stuff, because I've only got a few of these Nurglings. I was going to test it on these guys before I do it on the bloke drones and those things. But I just like the idea of them having that, as you said, that kind of contrasted, like the exact opposite lighting scheme to the others. And it's not massive. I didn't put black on the top. I just added a bit of greying. It'll just give them that's weird. Why is it light underneath kind of effect? And I did a few Nurglings on my LOC with contrast paints. So I'm probably going to do these with contrast paints as well. Yeah. I'm just trying to decide if I'm going to do like a whole green pile, a whole pinky red pile, and a whole bluey purple pile, or if I'll mix and match and do like 2 blue, 2 red, 2 green, 2 yellow, and do like so that they're little rainbow blobs. Which is obviously harder, but will probably look better and bring a lot of colors instead of having one that's kind of pink and one that's kind of blue and one that's kind of green and yellow. Having these blobby rainbows will break up, because my guys, like, there's a lot of blue on them. Like they're so yeah. And this is, I have 3 of these, as previously discussed. That's 1% on my painting target. I currently have exactly 300 models. So getting these guys done, a couple of layers of contrast paint, some highlights, and a wash, and that's 1% closer to getting to my 50% target. Nice. And then of course there's this beauty, which isn't AOP, which is just for role playing. which I'm really happy with how the flowers have turned out.
That looked great. That was really
and like with the writing, like I'm not saying this is good, this freehand writing, but I couldn't believe how like easy it was, and how just as I was doing it, I felt like I was getting better, just because the paintbrush I've got is so much better than anyone I've ever used before, and it's not an expensive one. It is just that Citadel base small. It's just I realised before I bought cheap generic paintbrushes that were just small paintbrushes rather than ones designed for miniature painting. So I'd kind of hamstring myself, and I'm trying to be strict of not using it for metallics and just using the others for metallics.
Yeah, it tends to be largely the brushes that I think Games Workshop, it's a sable brush. Beyond like the starter brushes, it becomes a sable brush, and they just tend to be better, tend to hold a tip fine. Like the ones I use are Winsor & Newton Series 7, which probably if you did a poll of best brushes would, and they're designed for watercolors essentially. But it's when it becomes like a real hair brush. It changes it.
Yeah, and I think I can see that from the other brushes that I had, where you're just like, oh yeah. Also, just some of the ones I've used for metallics once, I've just ruined them. So I have had to sacrifice one of my little protectors to be the standy up bit for a fetid bloat drone. Not fetid bloat drone. Is it fetid? Not the demon ones. Was it the
plague? They're just plague drones.
Plague drones, yeah. The ones I got from Phil. I couldn't find one of the bases or the things, so I've had to improvise. But I've got that as well. So ticking off the more models made, more models started painting. We're getting there. 2020 is gonna hit a lot of our hobby targets, and Armies on Parade is gonna be one of them. So it better happen. Yeah. How about yourself? Any progress? Any movement?
So I finished. I think last time. I think I was building my Judicators, which were the arrow dudes. The Archer Stormcast, and I finished those. And they came out really well. And like that's it from the storm side. That was about 2 weeks' work to paint that squad. I've got a discontinued Knight Heraldor, which is somewhere around here. Flashing. But he's missing. Oh no, here he is. This guy with the horn.
Okay, yeah.
So I think I mentioned that my guys were going to be somewhat focused around their war chants and their songs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get. There is no reason at all to field more than one Knight Heraldor in an army, but I'm going to get 3. One, the normal one, this discontinued one, and one that I convert to have like a drum instead of a horn.
Okay.
And it'll be like you can still play with 3, and they're not useless.
I think you're turning to the way of Papa Nurgle there.
Oh, yeah.
You should have one of these, but I'm going to go with 3. I don't know why. Something's guiding my hand.
If I had, I feel like 7's more important than 3. Like 3 units of 7, it would be worrying. It's harder to do in Age of Sigmar though because they don't allow, or you pay for like blocks of.
Yeah, you can't just add. You can't have like a unit that could be 5 or 6 or 7, and you just.
Although there was a Nurgle specific detachment that gave a bonus to any unit whose starting strength was a multiple of 7. So you had to figure out like which is the best, like because there are no good numbers until you get to 35 or 70, which doesn't work. So you're like, okay, so I'll have a unit of 28 plague bearers where I pay for 30, but the bonus is good enough that I don't care that I paid for 30 and only brought 28. It's just sort of, it's quite interesting because it made list building interesting, but weird. They did one for each god, so there was so Tzeentch had it quite easy, I guess, because it was multiples of 9. So you just take 10 and drop one. Khorne was Slaanesh was 6, so you can kind of do units of 30 quite nicely.
Yeah.
And then Khorne was 8, which is a bit, unless you can do units of 40, gets a bit shit. But there you go. But yes, I finished those guys. They got featured on Warhammer Community, which is a big deal.
Yeah, they did.
So I was super happy with that. And I've had some good compliments and some good follows on Twitter based on them. Like a few people who I really, really admire have followed me on the back of that. Like the other day, Ben Johnson followed me, who is he's a rules writer, like one of the main writers of Age of Sigmar rules. But he churns out armies of like not like stunning quality, but good quality. Like if you did like a sort of value that is quantity times quality,
yeah,
like he is up there. Like when they announced, have you seen they've announced these mega gargants for Age of Sigmar? These like super giants. So there's a giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now they announced a few weeks ago these mega gargants that are like twice the size in an army called Sons of Behemat, which is like an all giant army. And Ben Johnson's like immediate response was to post on Twitter a picture of just 10 giants that he bought. Like, right, I'm gonna crank these out in like a week. So, and I've got an admiration for people who can churn that shit out. Like, I suppose there's a little bit of jealousy.
Is it possible that he's just like subcontracting it out? I think like 10 dudes in India just.
I think if you are really, because you get faster as you do more.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess a real big thing is if you know what quality point you're aiming for and you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You just don't, you're like happy with what you put out, then you can get through some stuff. I mean, the thing that always holds me back is I'm always wanting to up the quality level.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and I've found that with like my guys. Once I really took my time and care with my LOC, but then I immediately realized, nobody's going to look at the other Marines and dudes, especially when there's like 10 of them. They might pick up the guy with the flail or the guy with the cleaver, but nobody's going to pick up and look at like the 9th dude with a bolter.
Yeah.
Like nobody's even going to look. So I was just like, I just need to get these where there's no mistakes that annoy the shit out of me. And that's it. Like, also, like, nobody's judging me. So it's just as long as I'm happy. So it was very much just I've got all the colors and features that I've decided my army have. I've corrected any mistakes I've made. And that's one of the things I've learned to sped me up. Not making less mistakes or fewer mistakes, but knowing that which ones I can correct, so I can just be like, don't need to worry about that. I'll touch that up when I do this.
Yeah.
And just being like, yep, gonna move. Like even on that sundial, I messed up one of the black lines, and I was like, don't worry about that. I've got to do that other touching up. So I'll just touch that up, and then I was just like, and it's so much easier to like paint the line down to a thin line than trying to get it perfectly thin the first time.
Oh yeah. So the massive thing about freehand is just going over stuff that you've already done.
Yeah.
There's some great. You'll find some great. Like you won't find it for just writing numerals because there's only so many stages to that. But if you take like a step-by-step progress of someone doing like a freehand of like a beautiful mural.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 steps look shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's sort of reassuring to see. Like I've just done one of my first interesting bits of freehand on this guy here.
Yeah.
I did the laurel on the shoulder, and I decided to do it on a whim. And I was just like, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw down some shapes. I'm going to paint over the bits I get wrong and slowly build it up into a thing. And it came out fine.
Yeah.
So it's definitely.
Oh yeah.
Freehand looks more daunting than it is.
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't know if it'd be classed as freehand. When I was doing some stripes on some piping.
Yeah, but
yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't know how they do it. And like in my mind, I don't know why I had it like, well, they start with black and they build up a yellow. And then I watched a tutorial and it's like, no, of course you start with with yellow, and then you start just with the, doesn't need even to be particularly straight, just the thin black lines spacing, and then you just slowly make them thicker until they're the right thickness. And I was like, why was I trying to paint that in one smooth brush stroke?
Yeah.
And I know it sounds stupid, especially like as somebody who's trying to get better at this and actively doing, but as somebody who's like really not bothered to watch any how-tos or like read some stuff. I was reading that flip chart book you gave me the other day, and I was just like, oh God, I need just for my own sanity's sake, I need to be paying more attention to like the help that's out there instead of getting frustrated at my results and being like, maybe you should watch a YouTube video before you paint that thing. Just go and have a look. So yeah.
The one that I'd recommend, and I think I have recommended it before to you, but I'll say now for this, is Vince Venturalla's Hobby Cheating.
Yes.
Because it really ranges from like speed stuff to quality stuff, but his whole intention is about making stuff easier. So a lot of his videos are about, okay, you want so I think it might be interesting. He has like how he would paint a Skaven in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really sort of a king of Zenithal first, and then like inks and washes. And
I think when you recommended him before, I went and watched like some of his first episodes about Zenithal and really got like, I can see how that relatively easy to do painting at the beginning adds so many layers later on.
Yeah.
That if you were trying to just paint them like that would be, essentially impossible.
Yeah, and other than some contrast stuff, the GW tutorials don't really do anything to speed stuff up.
No.
Like they're all very stuck in the layer things up, highlight things, like base it, wash it, layer it up, highlight it, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing with the Hobby Cheating videos is his like video quality isn't the best.
No, that was one of the things I found hard at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't think he's got much better from the beginning, but still, like, if you sort of accept the point he's trying to make,
yeah,
and like accept that you might not necessarily be able to see, and like maybe if they had a really good picture of his 20-minute model, you'd know that it was done in 20 minutes. But that's that's what you get for a 20-minute model.
Yeah, and I think like that's one of the other things I've had to, especially with the lockdown, is like, do I even bother painting these things or rushing trying to get these models done for the at distance role playing night that we might be doing, or the people are going to be worrying about what their move is next and how they're going to like effectively use the points that they've spent rather than worrying about what my models look like.
Yeah.
And of course, ultimately the two people I play most with, or pretty much only with, I guess, is yourself, who is endlessly supportive and like realistic, and our constant I don't know what's the right word, energizer bunny of compliments.
Oh yeah.
He's just like, so you can guarantee that, like, yeah. So I don't know, like, it's only me beating me up, and that's something like to tell my future self is don't do that. Like, you're enjoying this. The whole point of going to this AOP thing is to meet a few of the other people and, show your army off that you've been working hard at.
Yeah.
Show some other people this. This isn't like, this isn't about winning or a competition. This is about like getting into the community a little bit, because I'm a bit of a curmudgeon at times, and this is to kind of dip your toe in, show people that you're doing something in this.
And
yeah.
And I think it's one of those things as well that I make a big effort to. And when I say make an effort to, I'm not being insincere, but really talk about what I like about everything that is brought.
Yeah.
Like how I love this board. This, these models are cool. This 2D work you've done is really creative. This, and just talking about how nice it is to see finished projects, which if you go to a local gaming store is often not what you see.
Yeah.
You see a lot of grey plastic, which is,
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Indeed.
Yeah. Like a lot of my hobby targets, in fact, unsurprisingly, most of my hobby targets are, about completing stuff, completing projects. I had got playing games on there, but that's kind of gone out of the water because I wanted to be playing at least one game a month. And with the lockdown, that's just not probably a thing. And I wanted to play at Warhammer World at least once this year. And again, don't know if that's realistically a thing now.
It's less likely, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah. Well, it's not just like it's just not a priority for me to be like, if I have 6 things to risk infection for this year, going and playing a game at Warhammer World is not one of them. So,
I do wonder if Warhammer World might be a good one because they can be like, right, we're going to limit it to 40 tables, so everyone has like 2 table space, like the sort of stuff that you can't get away with at a store. But yeah, still, it's not something.
Yeah. So
until
there's lots of, and like I broke a lot of them down into very like simple projects. So like the AOP board is quite a big one. But then I've got encounters for WQ. So, or what will be Woof Whoop. So like those 3 Nurgle guys I showed before, like that's one encounter. So if I can just paint them, that ticks off another like goal. Some of the these guys, Banshees.
Oh yeah.
That's another encounter. So it's just like, and I've got 3 of them sitting there to be done. So that's 1% of my painting total. Another encounter done. Like it keeps ticking off, and it's not about hitting those targets, but that's about like a big part of keeping motivated for me.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think hitting that 50% painted mark will be like, that'll be the highest I've been at.
It's a really nice.
Mortal Realms sent me an email saying deliveries are delayed, so that'll help because that'll mean new stuff coming in slower. So I think that's everything for AOP in progress, and just a little update. Is there anything else? Have you done anything structurally or?
No, I'll just say that in terms of painting logs, the next thing on my list to do is shit. have these 2 boxes of Necromunda terrain, and I know the thing I'm building them into that will use like the entire 2 boxes.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting on the place I get my plastic card from to open up, and it has. So I reckon that's like a month's worth of terrain work. So, and it's like, it's modular crap for 40k. So while I will maybe have a few Stormcasts as a break project, my AOP progress will be, so like if we kept it at roughly this frequency, I would probably still, just be saying the odd couple of things. So just letting you know, in case we have to re-update where I say
it's AOP is like the main subject, but I'm happy to talk general hobby, and like these don't have to be of any set length. As long as we're just regularly checking in. But yeah, cool. Right. Well, I'll hit stop on the record, and I'll add this to the pile.
Sweet.
Oh.